Dreaming. Well, hello everybody and welcome again to an all-new Dr. Question and Answers. My name is Neil Resto, aka the Treat Fairy, and I'm here to bring you Dr. Gina Question. Dr. Question, we want to follow up today on some vaccines. We want to touch base on some stuff with Wasabi, catch up on everything that you guys been learning and doing, and oh my goodness, fill us in. You've had a really eventful week.
We've had a very eventful week, and good morning, and so great. Thanks for having me again, Neil.
Thank you for joining me.
And so, yeah, it's been a busy week. We had our second puppy class. We did a lot of out and about in some public places, to some more natural woodsy places, learning what ice is like and rivers, moving water is like, which is all different and exciting for little puppies, so a lot of experiences this week. And also she's due for an update in her vaccinations this week.
So are we gonna do the vaccines today?
I think that we are going to do vaccines today,
right?
Right?
That's so awesome. So we can actually see an introduction to vaccines. And the great part to point out too is that when we're trying to do this, it's literally Dr. Q by herself who is going to vaccinate this puppy. So I hope that we can show some of the expectations in handling and how that you could potentially do this very safely without having to, wrap them all up or force them down and, make this a really pleasant experience for them. So that way it's not a fearful one for them in the future. So that's really cool, Dr. Q.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
So you went out and about. You went and experienced some things. You checked a few things off of that checklist, and it's really cute because just last week I had Danielle Beck on with her animal behavior chats, and we went over some of the things that you should go and experience and what is socialization to a puppy, and how it's really nice. You can have that checklist where it's introduce them to people wearing hats or glasses or mustaches or whatever the case may be. You have that available, but then we also have to think of some of the things too on, well, what are we gonna do? What does our lifestyle require? I don't need to go through this whole entire list, because if in my life I'm never going to experience that, well, maybe I don't need to focus on it. So instead of worrying about all these things you have to socialize them to, just do it when it comes, So if you go out to the park or you do whatever, if you have all the tools necessary, then heck, just have fun with it.
That's right. I think one of the best things that we've done with her so far has been taking her to the ski resorts with us, and spending a good 20-30 minutes just letting her watch the heavy traffic, foot traffic, tall people, short people, goggles, helmets, ski boots, clunking, equipment, crashing.
And how's she liking all that?
Children screaming, it's been really very, very stimulating for her, and of course all the people that are coming forward going, oh, I want to pet your puppy, I want to pet your puppy, and she's lunging towards them, and I'm not letting them do that. And so
I was gonna say, what are some of the things that you are doing to encouraging that stimulation while still encouraging some impulse control? What are some of the things that you're doing when you're out and about? Because I'm sure, you're pretty popular in your local area. So what are some of the things that you would be doing?
Well, so one thing that I did that just came yesterday, and I'm so excited about it, is I got her a little harness that says "in training" on it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and that fits her really well, and I posted some pictures of it yesterday, and we're just getting started with that, and that's, I think, going to make a big difference. The other thing that I do is that when I am in public, I just really make it very clear with my body language, that I always, as soon as I notice somebody coming towards me, I physically will either distract the puppy another direction or get my body in front of that person and the puppy.
Right.
I make it really clear that I'm really not interested in you touching my puppy.
Right.
And And
so do you think that you're applying some sort of a body block to that person, but do you think that's affecting the puppy in any way from discouraging them to want to engage with another person? So would you technically say you're thinking of the puppy first and the person second?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I need to protect her. I mean, I don't know if they have a dog at home. I don't know if their dog has kennel cough. I don't want her getting exposed to things.
Exactly.
And I also don't want little kids, yanking on her ears or something if they're kids that don't know how to handle a little puppy. And then, you can tell people 100 times, please don't let her jump on you, and they won't get it. And so, so if there's something you don't want to happen, you just have to not let it happen. And so I literally will go behind, a chair or behind a sign, or, as soon as I see people sort of beelining, I sort of, as quick as I can, beeline somewhere else so that there's a physical barrier or my own body or something to really make that person stop.
Right.
And then if they stop and they smile and they stand there for a moment and then the puppy's calm and then they go, oh, may I pet your puppy? Then I will allow an interaction.
Right.
And so it's just been really fun. I've been meeting a lot of people, and I know some people think that I'm terrible and awful because I won't just let them maul my puppy.
So, Dr. Q, this brings up a really cool point, and we had done another chat, but with all of the puppy going on and everyone talking about puppies, it's really cool that I can bounce these different feeds back and forth. And, we discussed with Lauren Watts, who is a puppy school tutor out of the UK, and we discussed about puppy classes and leashing puppies or having off-leash play, and what are play dates, and what are all these different things we could be doing for our pets that ultimately could be injuring them. What are some of the precautions that we could be taking to ensure that we have a successful, happy, and productive class program? So what are some of the things that you would suggest in your classes?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's, as you and I say over and over again to each other, it's safety first. Safety first. And if I don't have a way to really keep my puppy contained where I want her to be, and I never have her out in those circumstances with all those people and activities and stuff without her being on a leash. And yeah, sometimes it's frustrating because I want to walk here and she doesn't want to walk. She's distracted by this or that. And so a lot of times people, I think, with puppies will just let them wander off leash because they're like, well, they're just a baby and I can just pick them up or carry them. But then they're not learning any skills as far as they're not learning those leash skills.
Well, then there's that one time that you're like, oh, I think I can catch the puppy, and you don't actually catch it. Oh my goodness. And we're going to go see if we can catch up with Dr. Q here. We're going to try and ring her back, everybody, and see if we can get her back on screen. Hold on here. She was having a bit of a computer issue. It might have died on her. It wasn't plugged in. It's okay. Dr. Q! Ringing, 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 ringing. Hello, Dr. Q, and welcome back. We are still on the air, so you're very welcome. I tried to keep them a little entertained while I tried to ring you back a few times.
Great,
but welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad you had a moment to think about the answer to that question. If you didn't want to answer it, you could have just said so. You didn't have to, just hang up on me and run away.
The internet connection is good. Connection is.
Yeah, right.
I'm so sorry, Neil. You were just asking me something, and it cut out right as you were asking me, and it was...
No, it's okay. So, what I was not worrying about, but what I was asking was, what are some successful steps that we can take in our class to help keep stimulation and help keep some of those new experiences and socialization coming at a progressive standard versus just trying to pile it on all at once?
Well, I think that like when I take my puppy to the ski resorts, we only spend maybe 15 minutes in that environment.
Right.
Because I think that's plenty. At the end of that time, I take her back and I put her back in her crate with some snacks and some treats, and then she can have a timeout and sort of process all of that information.
Right.
Neil, I have a question for you, I suppose. I know that you spoke with Danny and you had some guests on from the UK specifically that have a lot of experience with puppies. And I'm just curious if you can give us any insight into some of the ways that, they do things, how they, conduct their classes, what they think is important, like those first few weeks in those classes.
So some of the rundown basically that I get, from my different experiences, conversations, discussions with different people around, specifically in the UK, I've run into a group of instructors that have mentored under Gwen Bailey, and she's a behaviorist in the UK, and she's actually very well known here in the United States and in a couple areas internationally. But one of the specific details that they like to discuss is that they want the experiences to be successful in small rather than trying to fit everything in all at once. And, I enlightened them a little bit with my treat fairy-ism of, my treat fairy-ism is find the teachable moments. If it's not one of those things that you can specifically, just run into, maybe you might need to set it up. Maybe you might need to find that opportunity to do something like that. One of the pieces that they really discuss too is that they try to do most of their stuff on leash, unless it's a specific play date or it's something that they're doing to train the engagement with the animals. They're most likely on leash. And I run my classes the exact same way, is because I can control that space. I'm big into space management. You manage the space to get the desired result. So if I'm managing that dog and I'm only giving them a 4-foot radius to go around me, they only have 4 feet to engage with me. Now, if that means I can't get their attention back, I may just walk away. I may pick up my leash and walk 3 steps, make it a let's go, it's really happy, it's really active, get them back with me again, go back to my spot, still keep them on that 4-foot radius, and try to do it again. I try to make those times as accessible as possible and as successful as possible.
So what about dogs becoming leash aggressive because they are, just really learning how to interact with the world and with other dogs on the leash? What's your comments on that?
That means every dog that has a fence is going to have fence aggression.
Right. And they don't.
They don't. They don't. There's plenty of dogs that go out and they play in their backyard and they would get fence aggression. If that were the case, that if you kept your puppy on the leash, you will get leash aggression. If I let my dog out in a yard, because we can't use, you don't want to use an electric fence. So if I let my dog out in the yard, then my dog will get fence aggression. Yes.
Yeah, I see your point.
No, there would have to be other encounters in order for it to become leash aggression. The dog would have to be constantly bowled over. The dog would have to become uncomfortable. The dog would have to become scared. The dog would have to become angry, shy, whatever the case may be. That dog would have to have a bad imprinting experience in order for them to go, okay, this is the problem. This is where my leash aggression is going to come from. But if it's happy and it's play and they get play time with other dogs, they get off-leash time with other dogs, they get to share, food around other dogs, belongings around other dogs, well, then that's successful, is it not? They don't need to be touching to be socializing. I don't need to be talking to the same person in my room. I could be sitting here enjoying their company. You can do the same thing. You're creating an impulse control, if anything.
Exactly.
If anything, you're creating an impulse control.
I think that the impulse control is so important. And I would think that, and from your experience, that by spending time first concentrating on the impulse control, that then when you do have the opportunity to have the reward of being free, that because you've already practiced that impulse control, that's going to carry over into that free time as well and make those interactions be less hyper excitable.
So how I make the interactions be exciting is I introduce my puppy to, usually it's about a 2 to 3 week period where they're in their house training stage, but that I only give the attention scheduled, and I only give the attention if they've done their requirements of going to the bathroom outside and things like that. If not, they're in a containment area with their own toys, their own belongings, their own music, their own everything, to teach them how to live to their own devices. And then we also experience things when we go out. So, I'll put them in the backpack of Loki, and then we go out and we do different things and so on. But then when the people get these puppies, they're so well socialized because all of the things that they're doing is outside of their regular realm. So it's just this all-encompassing. It's like going to school. It really is. It's like getting a solid education. And I do all of it click and treat through the entire process. And sometimes it takes 3 weeks. Sometimes it takes 6 months for the dogs to be able to get to their own devices, that impulse control, to where I can then hand it off to somebody else and go, okay, you have a dog now. You know what I mean? Like with in my case, I can't just, I'm not just training a pet dog. I need this dog that can literally think for itself and then be able to think for somebody else. So their social ability needs to be higher than anything you've ever seen. So when I do some of my videos and I'm in the malls and I'm doing different stuff, people get all frustrated with me because I say I'm stacking too much. If anything, I don't stack enough. I have a dog right now we're working on. She's a little iffy on escalators, but she's still working on us putting boots on and leaving them on for a long period of time. I'm not going to put those boots on her, bring her to the mall, and then make her do an escalator because I'm just stacking way too many things on her. So we have people that are getting upset right now because her paws aren't protected. But then at the same point, I'm looking at a behavioral aspect where I could completely flood this dog, and then I either A, have to start over, or B, I ruin it and I can't get it back.
And what I think I would like everybody out there that's listening to really tune into is that these principles are really sound for no matter what kind of animal you're dealing with. So these are just as relevant if you're training a horse as they are if you're training a puppy or a bird or any other kind of animal. So we always have to take that into consideration. The stacking, as you described it, or placing too many new things on at one time, as well as take small increments, and just everything you're describing. I just think it's really important to keep in mind that this is just sound, basic science and training.
Yeah, and the cool part too is we can actually bring in some horse discussions too, Dr. Q. You and I, we could totally get into some horse discussions here in the future.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But should I go ahead at this point and get Wasabi and let's do the vaccine?
Yes. So
let's do that. Asked me if we could do it right on camera, so we're going to see how this goes. I don't know if this is going to be what you're hoping to see. Maybe a disaster. No, I'm just kidding. But is there anything specifically, you just really want to see like how I can do it, handling it by myself?
Here's the thing. Set it up for us. I mentioned to you earlier off screen that I have a little principle that I follow, and it's feed for duration. And the reason I do this is so that way I can feed frequently, and then as time progresses, I can reduce how often I'm feeding and stretch out those time frames till I get to the point where I can literally, okay, I'm going to shoe your feet and then I'm going to give you a cookie after. Because that's one of the things that some people have to realize too, is once we get into cross species, we can learn some alternate train of thoughts that we might not have understood when we were just looking at one primary species. So one of the things that we do in zoos and different behavior consultants around the world is they teach the animal how to accept the vaccine. So if you would be able to do a stand with a couple clicks here and there, and if you feel comfortable enough where you feel you can administer it without forcing her down, would you be willing to show that to us on stream?
I certainly would. Now, I think the one thing that everybody would understand is in a zoo or marine mammal environment where they're training and habituating these animals to getting vaccines, it's a process that takes anywhere from a few days to a few weeks to acclimate the animal before they actually give the vaccine.
Correct.
And so and my puppy at this point has no training at all in any of those, well, very few of those behaviors. She does a down, but she certainly doesn't know a down stay. And so I think, for, again, safety first.
Your dog's not perfect yet, Dr. Q. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, no, we have to go ahead and just kind of get it done because she needs to be vaccinated today or in the next few days. And so we can certainly kind of combine the best of both worlds as close as I can, but it's not going to be exactly perfect husbandry training at this point. Maybe in a year from now it will be. But let me talk about what I'm going to do for the vaccine, if you can sort of see here. So here I have her vaccine and the diluent. So most vaccines come this way, where you have like a powder and then you have a diluent that reconstitutes it. And so first I'm going to bring up there we go, my diluent. And then
that's just like a saline solution, correct?
Just saline. I'm going to put it in there, shake that around. Now, time I've done all this needle has been in and out of this rubber cap and the rubber cap on the other bottle, how many times? 3-4 times. It is not sharp.
No.
I would not be happy if you stuck this in my body. So one thing that I don't think a lot of veterinarians do, even though we should, is at this point I always switch out my needle. Because it's just not fair to the animal. They need to have a brand new needle that's never been through any kind of a rubber stopper before you vaccinate them, so it doesn't hurt.
Well, that's the thing too, is the rubber is so much more deteriorating than even our epidermis skin would be. So, it's
true.
really, really important to understand that when you force that needle through something, it eventually is going to dull. So even for those people who right now, if you have a diabetic animal or you have some sort of a condition that requires you to give it a needle on a regular basis, make sure you get sharpened needles. Do not reuse needles. Thank you.
Some people are like, oh, you can use that same needle 2 or 3 times.
No,
and
you cannot.
My opinion on that is, I think if it was you, that you would want the doctor to take it.
Okay, perfect. Then you know what? You're gonna get this vaccine today. Let's see.
Right.
Let's see. You're gonna get this diluent, and we're gonna just give it to you like that.
You won't mind.
You won't mind. Let's see. Let's see if you mind. Now, if I offer you a Hershey bar, will you sit there and take it?
I might.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
So another thing that I like to point out with this particular vaccine is that, so it is a distemper adeno parvovirus vaccine is what I'm vaccinating her for, which I think is appropriate at her age. And this particular manufacturer, even though I'm not promoting anybody specifically, I really like their products because they have less of the sort of carrier type component to the vaccine, and it's really a more pure vaccine. It's a newer vaccine, and so because of that, it's actually half the volume of a traditional vaccine, which I also really like. So I'm using much less vaccine, getting the same protection, but I'm physically putting much less into the animal's body. And so when you're out there, you can always feel free to ask your veterinarian what kind of vaccines they're using, especially for smaller dogs, because I really like using one that has less is more, as long as it's still working. So on that note,
safety first, less is more.
Yes, less is best.
Cheapskate treat fairy.
So my puppy is upside down and asleep in this crate. So we'll see if I can get her interested in getting up.
So while you're doing that, you know, it's one of the instances that I like to talk about in your handling. You can handle your puppy. You can touch your puppy. You can, mold your puppy, manipulate your puppy. But it's not to say we want to force the puppy around. It's just to say that we want to be able to touch them, because in this situation, we're going to need to be able to touch them. We need to be able to put them up on the table. We need to be able to do those different types of things. And as I'm talking to you now, it's really funny. The old lady just decided she was going to take a lap around the room. So sorry for the clitter clatter. She needs her nails done, by the way. Should I do that as the video?
Here. Can you see me okay?
Yes, I do. I love the view.
Okay, good. So, first of all, I have a yoga mat actually down so that she's on a non-sliding surface. I think that's really important. And, of course, I have my treat Sandy, even though she's a little tough because she's not a super food-motivated dog. The Mastiff part of her comes out to where she's kind of slow, a little bit slow and lumbering.
Yeah.
And so nothing gets her too excited, not even food, really. Right now she's much more interested in nibbling on my...
Some trainers would say you just haven't found the right food yet.
That could be, and she definitely has different levels of
tastes.
Different things.
Yeah.
So, with seeing her...
So as long as you don't turn away completely, we can still hear you.
Yeah. So she's here. I have my needle and syringe. And what you want to do is usually vaccines are going to go maybe right here where they have a lot of loose skin on the back. You can probably see me picking her skin up.
Yep.
And so I'm just feeding for duration, as you said. Take the needle off.
Yay!
And she didn't even whimper or cry. Good girl! So you know how I was saying that, she wouldn't be perfect because she's never been trained for this, but...
Yeah. So here's another one. Some clicker trainers would actually say that you shouldn't have clicked after you gave that vaccine because it was too far from the actual moment of the vaccination going into place. So you should have actually just fed in reward for staying, but not necessarily clicked, because she wouldn't understand if you were clicking for the duration or if you were clicking for the needle. So it's really important that you take your marker and put it as close to whatever item you want marked as possible. Not trying to blow up your spot, but I want to just throw out a little bit of the clicker training, because if we're going to put some of it in this video, I want to make sure that some people understand what is clicker training and how to effectively apply it. Just because I am a clicker trainer, so I have to every once in a while, smack myself too, because I put it too far away, or I realize I'm not really paying attention, or I'm not fully in the game. I'm not fully, prepared for that moment.
Well, and the other thing, too, is that you have to remember this is why in professional settings you usually have more than one trainer.
Well, that's the case, too. Yeah, as we usually have more than one trainer, but it's also really awesome to see the effectiveness of the positive handling and how you can actually do some of these things without having to put all of that fear and force into some of the standard veterinary protocols, because those husbandry protocols should be things that we should be able to do at home. You should be able to cut your dog's nails. You should be able to do all of these things with your pet. And, this is one of the most effective ways to do it, because look at how young this puppy is. And you only practiced this for 5 minutes beforehand? So...
Yeah, the only practicing was just putting her on the table. We never practiced any of the rest of it, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it just goes to show that if you have those foundations in the beginning, if you've set that puppy up for success within those first couple weeks that you get it, once you start to hit that socialization period and the older puppyhood period before you go into adolescence, before you hit that 6 months to a year and a half age range, where you're gonna have that puppy that just wants to throw you the bird all the time because your recall's gonna go out the window, your sit's gonna go out the window. But the thing is if you keep practicing it, you'll find that it comes back. You know, it's kind of like the old wives' tale that, you know, you never forget how to ride a bike. Your dog will never forget how to learn if you teach it properly. It will never forget how to learn. They will always love to learn. I love this. I absolutely love this. This is, and what we're doing here too, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is Dr. Q is using her target stick, and of course she has to have the most fabulous and bedazzled like target stick that's absolutely available. So peace sign to Dr. Q and positivity, and she wants to go for the A+ today, and overall her handling has been absolutely wonderful. I really can't complain about it, and thank you so much for taking the time to be able to do this with your puppy and then share your experiences with us here online too. Like this is great for all of our viewers. I know we're getting up here a little bit in length and we had a couple of issues today, guys, but you know, you hung in there and we had a couple of laughs, and it's always so much fun to get back with you, Dr. Queston. She is at Dr. Queston on Twitter. You can also follow her YouTube channel here, the one Dr. Q. Hopefully this is not on Danny's channel, but I'll check that in a second. Positive Pet Advice, for those of you who don't know, Dr. Q and I with our wonderful team of admins admin a group on Facebook called Positive Pet Advice. Go head up and request to join today, the one and only Dr. Q. My name is Neil Resto, aka the Treat Furry.
Yay!
Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for your help. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Spreading the good word. Everybody leave your comments down below and let us know what you want us to talk about, and we love to chat with you about any of your animal questions. Bye-bye.
Bye.